CT Duel.
Back at
Welcome. How are you?
Thank you, brother. I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. My bad. Fucking with my microphone over here. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm hot. I'm like finally kind of cooled down a little bit from walking the dogs, and I feel good.
You hit the gym?
No, I didn't go to the yet. I just
Why
went up
not,
to the
brother?
mountain.
Like, nah, I already hiked the mountain though.
Hold on, wait, let's slow down. But also,
Just summited a mountain.
it's a hill. I mean, but it's just like 150 degrees. That's the only factor.
Oh yeah, you.
Welcome to the viewers. This is the Forge. This is the bi-weekly or the twice weekly chat that I'm hosting with my friend and colleague CT Duel. Welcome on Facebook. Welcome on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube Live. Please feel free to join the conversation. CT and I were talking about maybe zooming out a little bit and sort of revisiting how we got to know each other, why we're here, and what our goal is. So I thought I would ask you, CT, why are you here? What is your goal?
Those are some great questions as always, man. Why am I here? Personally, or why do I feel we need to start a men's group?
Yeah, like why are you burning 2 hours of your time every week sitting on a live talking to me about your emotions?
Hell of a question. I think I want to show that it's okay to be vulnerable, show myself and show other men, hopefully. Um, my goal is to bring other men in the conversation, but even if they don't join the conversation and come on the live or join the group, then they can at least see that there are other people struggling with the same shit that they're struggling with. For me, that's always powerful, man, to hear that the knowledge that I'm human, right? So when you share a struggle, Danny, for example, it makes me go in my head, oh shit, it's not just me. I'm not the only one that struggles with that. I'm less alone. And then therefore I'm more empowered to do something about it. So convoluted answer, but yeah, why am I here? And what is the goal? I think the answer is the same: to bring more men into these conversations and just let people know that they're not alone in their struggles.
Not alone in their struggles. Thank you for that. I think it's very well said. For me, I don't feel like I'm struggling today, but I do think that why a men's group, why am I here? Not everything is about a struggle, but we as men have minimized our ability or willingness to admit when there is a struggle to each other, right? Always have to, I'm speaking for myself, but also as observing the whole of men in my life, minimize or deny a struggle so as not to appear weak, let people think you're weak, have failed in some way. And as I've aged, I learned that one of those doesn't have to rule out the other, right? Because I'm saying, hey, CT, can I run something by you? I'm struggling with this. I don't know what to do, or I feel like I'm backed into a corner. I don't know. Can I run this by you? Does not, by saying that, mean that I am weak, failed in some way. In fact, to me, it's the opposite. So when we create a little bit of space, a little bit of space for an adversity, we resolve it, handle it, or sometimes there isn't a solution, but we can at least have a witness and talk about it. Then that frees up a lot of extra space. And I think men, I don't know, I believe that men need a place to be able to do that and normalize it, not make everything be about, reliving past traumas or being a victim or any of that, but having a place to table something and allow it to have its space to breathe and be able to move forward. And that includes victories as well. I think that oftentimes the competitive male mindset doesn't speak to each other about triumphs either, because we don't want don't want to get caught slipping, don't want anyone to know our plans until they're firm, because someone can compete against us or shut it down, etc. So I think it goes both ways. But thank you for saying that. How did CT Duel and Danny end up here on the screen together?
This random dude jumped in my DMs and was like, "Hey, we should have a conversation," because he thought that I was someone who he would have met at the corner store. No, okay. Let me back up. Let me back up. So, how do we come to be here doing these lives? Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who have been following us for a while, you know that this story. But for those of you who are seeing us now, you know, who are these people and how did they come together? And so I think that our telling of the story is an example of what we're talking about today, right? Providing a space for men to talk to each other. You know, so I
Absolutely.
reached out to you on Instagram, a total stranger. I saw a piece of your content that seemed different in some way than all the other content I had seen. And my first instinct was to like, it would be interesting to talk to this guy. And I was like, I'm not gonna fuck. He doesn't want to hear from me. I'm not gonna bother him. Who am I? That's creepy. You know what I mean? Like all the reasons to not connect with someone, not communicate with someone. And so I said, I'm gonna just challenge it. And so I sent the message. You know, like, it's like a 5-line message, and you responded. I invited you to have a conversation with no goal, no sales pitch, no anything other than a conversation. And we had one. And we talked about, in both of our experience, the need for men to have a place and people to be able to have these types of conversations with. And we just said, well, why don't we just start one? Let's just do it. And so that's how it happened. And so this happened from us doing things that we probably would not have done earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Getting out of our comfort zones. I mean, me even posting the piece of content that you saw was me getting out of my comfort zone. And then you responding and saying, "Hey, man, would you want to have a conversation?" That was you getting out of your comfort zone, right? And then I see your profile and I go, "Oh, I think I saw all topics on the table or something and some of your stuff." So, okay, seems interesting. And then, yeah, man, we were on the same page about this need for men to have spaces like this. So the logical next step was to make it happen.
Why should someone watch these videos? Why should someone care? Why should someone in the public be interested in these conversations, and what would make them be engaged?
I mean, the reality is they don't have to care and they don't have to watch the video, you know. Um, the reality is you can go on ignoring, you know, the need to get your to be real, to let your raw, honest experiences, struggles, wins as well, to let them be known, right? You don't have to do that. But I don't know. In my experience, I've tried to live life just suppressing all of that and acting like I don't need this kind of space, and it ain't going very well for me. Um, and so I would say the benefit of conversations like these and spaces like these for men is some of the benefits are just a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense that you're not alone. We're breaking down the walls of isolation. Uh, we're making men feel seen and heard because many of us men, myself included, sometimes we don't feel like people see us for us. We're only as good as what we can provide or what we can do, um, or the work we do, or what we can do for society, right? So sometimes we don't feel seen, right? So it can help us achieve that. Um, yeah, it can help us process some of our experiences instead of suppressing, numbing, and then experiencing the detriments of that suppression and numbing. So it can help us to thaw out a little bit.
Wow. When you say a place for us to be seen, what does that mean to you?
It means that you can share something. It means I can share something, right? I can come to this group and I can share something that I think I did that's so fucked up and terrible and creepy growth, whatever, right? And I share it, and then the guy next to me goes, "Me too."
Mhm.
And then that triggers something in my mind that just kills shame. It doesn't allow shame to exist, right? So just that simple, "Oh, yeah, me too."
Yeah.
I'm over here like, "What? I'm human?"
Mhm.
Because here I was beating myself up, all wrapped up in this shame over here in isolation, and then I shared it with the group, and they just saw me for me. They were like, "Oh, no, you're human." So that's what I mean by feel seen. It's like seen for all parts of me, even the parts that I've deemed unacceptable, and the parts of me that I have to hide in work or with my partner or with my drinking buddies or whatever it is, right? I can just let out some nasty shit, and people are like, "Cool, man."
Something you brought up strikes a chord with me, which is the concept of shame and the concept of guilt. I think many men are really intimately familiar with these concepts, but for people who are viewing, is I define guilt and shame a little bit differently. I define guilt as a feeling regarding something I've done, but I regard shame as feeling about something that I am.
Yeah.
And when we harbor this and when we aren't seen and when we form little compartments about can't show this part of myself at work, can't show this part of myself to my partner, can't show this part at the bar, can't show this part at the gym, can't show that part at church or at the mosque, wherever. In my spiritual community, can't release this. Then what that does is that builds energetic pressure within us, right? And where our thoughts are the seed of something physical down the road. Right? If I think in my head every day, I am an asshole, I am an asshole, I have failed, I have failed, I have failed. That causes emotional changes, chemical changes, physiological changes, behavioral change, right? But if my thinking becomes, okay, I wouldn't do that again today the same way I did that again then, but I did the best I could at the time with the tools that I had, with the knowledge that I had. That's called giving a grace. Some people say, I give myself a pass, I'm forgiving, I give myself grace. And when we use that type of language internally to ourselves, that creates a different um, algorithm or different sequelae of outcomes that are positive, right? We have more endorphins, we have more serotonin and dopamine, right? We are much less likely to go and sit in the bar and be like, give me as many of these as it takes for me to forget where I am right now. Right? And so that's, to me, is what is important. What you said about being seen is that if I can say, I feel ashamed of this in front of a group of people that aren't like, you're going to hell, you have to do this, you should have done that, you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. But in front of a group of men who are able to say, damn, I'm really sorry you were in that position, and I see you, and you're still the same CT you were 5 minutes ago before I knew this. How can I support you? Totally
If
different outcome.
if not, I actually like you more
Yeah,
because
because
now
you
I
had the
see that
balls
you're
to come and say it.
right, and now I see your humanity.
Yeah. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing this, because I have experienced the absolute exhaustion of trying to handle everything myself, of being zipped up all the time, of having it together outwardly, right? And I became a master at only unraveling in private. But then what happened is I had a lot more private time because I isolated more and more and more, right?
Right.
And I realized I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, whatever the negative outcome could have been for me, reaching out and saying, hey, CT, do you have 5 minutes? I want to talk to you about something, or to whomever. Whatever the negative outcome could have been, I won't know because I can't change the past. But what I do know is I don't think it could be worse than what I've done to myself in terms of isolation, ruminating, perseverating thoughts, obsessing over things, right? And so with a group like this, like even in my conversations with you, our conversations, yes, on live, but in particular in private, have been really liberating for me. I've just been able to be like, decompress that. You know, I said that. I've said a couple of things to you I haven't said to anyone else. Right. And so I can move forward being like, all right, I don't have to sit and think about that 50 times today anymore. You know, we birthed it, we raised it, and we killed it. Now we can move on.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's my invitation to men, is that you find a place that you can do this. And I invite you here to do it with us. But I think that as long as you have a place to do it, I invite you to do it. That's why.
Yeah. Beautiful answer. Beautiful answer, man. I got another question for you. Who is Danny McAtee?
I think I'm probably
Simple question.
I think I'm just trying to figure that out. You're asking me at a good time, because for people who don't know me, I worked a long time in public health and emergency medicine, and my identity was my job function. Right now, I've stopped working in that job. I'm done, and so that part of my identity is it's on the shelf. You know, some people know about it. I know about it, but it's no longer apparent. And so I am honest. I'm tenacious. I'm considerate and caring of others to a fault. I believe that service is important. I'm a person who loves dogs. I love little birds and little forest creatures that I'm learning about living here in Mexico. I love being outdoors. I'm loyal. Danny McAtee is loyal, also sometimes to a fault. And the rest, I'm a deeply spiritual person. That's a part of my life I've really kept sequestered, you know, because so-and-so only wants you to be Catholic, but so-and-so thinks that Catholic is a scam. And so they only want you to be this, or someone wants you to be Gnostic or whatever. And so I'm learning that I'm a deeply spiritual person. Not religious. Right? I'm not going to bang on the door and be like, I'd like to talk to you about the word. No, nothing like that. But I'm deeply spiritual. And the rest of it, those are sort of the foundational things that I know to be true about myself. And the rest I'm sort of finding out. Right.
Badass answer, man. Badass answer. I like that you went to your values first, you know. Well, two parts of your answer that were cool with that. You went to your values. I think it's tempting to go to your work or enmesh that identity with your work. You went to your values and you said, I'm still figuring that out. Admitting that I'm not this all self-aware guru expert motherfucker that just knows thyself too well. It's like, look, I'm still figuring it out every day. I'm learning new things about myself every day. And some of those values that you mentioned, that's really cool. I can see the transition probably that happened from leaving work or leaving a career and having to kind of grapple with that a little bit and go, okay, who actually am I outside of the uniform, right? The duty. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have a question for you. You might want to take a drink of whatever you have in front of you. You may want to take a drink.
I'm gonna spit it out, man.
What standards have you quietly lowered to keep from feeling disappointed?
Oh fuck. Let's okay. What standards have I quietly lowered to keep from feeling disappointed? Where the fuck do you get these questions, man? Because you're full of these questions that make me do that reaction. I go, ah, shit. Here we go.
I feel like you're deflecting.
Well read. Well read. You read that one like a damn book. What standards have I lowered to keep from feeling disappointed? First, I'll just go no filter. First things that come to mind are partners and relationships. You know, maybe this person doesn't meet my standards, but at least I have a partner. At least I'm not alone. Standards for myself. Friends, same thing. In that same vein. least I have some friends, even if they ain't on my level. But they're not doing the work. They don't give a fuck, that whatever. They're still doing a lot of old habits that I used to do that I no longer do, but at least I have friends. Um, Everybody lowered standards to avoid being disappointed. Done that with jobs. Um,
Can you be specific for the audience that's viewing? What about your jobs have you lowered your standards to keep from feeling disappointed?
I've taken jobs that I was probably overqualified for, just to, okay, cool, I'll crush the job, I'll make some money, cool. But if I actually held myself to my standard or higher and pushed myself a bit and was willing to put in some more work, I could probably get something way better. Um, so yeah, I've done that. Yeah, it's the same thing actually in different areas. I've done that with girlfriends, I've done that with friends, I've done that with jobs. Part of my growth process has been to maintain my standards. Part of my change process, yeah, has been to say, okay, these are my standards and we ain't settling, you know? Um, yeah, man, trying to think. Is there anything else? Yeah, that's what comes to
I
mind.
just want you to pause for a second. The thought that just went across your mind right now, when you said, "Is there anything else?" I just want to say that I noticed a change in your face. And so whatever that thought was, I'm not asking you to say it here and now, but I'm asking you to consider what it would be like if you actually said what just crossed your mind that you didn't say. That's the kind of
Man,
group I would like to have. That is the kind of space that I would like to create for men. That thought right there, that thought that you're like anything but that. I'm not talking about this one. That's where we start in the group. That is a place where it's welcome in the group. Right. So I'm gonna just take this interjection to go back and be like, that's why I'm here. Because when we're in a group or when we're talking to our friends and we're talking up here, we're like, yeah, I'm going to dip just deep enough so they think I'm not a shallow asshole. But what I really want to talk about is here. This is where I want the group to work.
yeah, I, yeah, you're gonna think I'm full of shit, but I don't think I had a,
That's okay. You don't
I don't
have
think I
to
had a
admit that
deeper.
now. You don't have to. This is a safe place. There's no pressure. We go at your speed.
I really don't think so, man. I feel like I would say it. I'd like to think that I would say it if there was something like, "Oh, I'm kind of scared to say that because I want that same group, right? Where people are, and how am I going to ask people? I'm going to hold people to a different standard as myself, right? You got to go deep and say the scary shit, but I'm good. No, I'm going to keep it service level. So certainly don't want to do that.
And yet we
I
have
don't know.
these lives, and that's what we do.
Hmm. Yeah,
That comes from a place of love. I want you to feel that. And yet we have these lives, and that's what we do.
yeah,
I
man.
took this moment to be real like that. And you notice I said, I did not say that's what you do. I said, that's what we do because I'm owning that I do that in this group.
Yeah,
Because a group is only as powerful as each individual's willingness to be like, "Okay, I'm just going to say it, right? I'm going to take that, I'm going to break that momentum and break that seal and go to that place that I've kept very protected for a very long time. And it's not easy. Right? It's not easy for any of us, no matter what the content is. Some things I didn't talk about for a long time because of the statute of limitations. Okay, right. But there is no statute of limitations on our emotional baggage, right? Our emotional, whatever you want to call it, our the shit that we drag with us that we could leave. behind.
Yeah, it's true, man. That's true. I think it's good to hold ourselves accountable in that way. Are we just, yeah, are we holding others to a different standard than ourselves? Inviting men to do something that we're not even willing to do, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
I have constantly justified why someone or something actually does fit into my standards. Right? My insidious way of quietly lowering my standards has been an unblinking optimist and naive and being like, well, it's probably like this, right? And creating all these justifications or reasons for why I can put a parenthesis on my values or why I can put a footnote or an amendment on my values, an exception on my values. This time, I think it's okay because of that, right? And so what does that tell me is that I've really never had values because they were fluid and moving, right? They moved in the direction of, well, at least I'm not alone, as you mentioned, right? I guess it could be worse. I guess I could be alone, right? At least I have a job at all. And so I have quietly lowered my standards in justifying the reasons that they actually do meet my standards. And that's why for me it has been insidious. What the fuck this person? It really, I don't even want to do it. It's not, like, well, but right. Fit it in. Make your values fluid and fit in. And to me, values are not fluid. Values are values. And if I believe that I'm worth it, I have a red line in all of my values. Right? There's a green line, a gray line, and a red line in my values. And recently, my red line has become firm. In the past, my red line has looked like this. Be like, let me just pull that and lower that down a little bit to fit you into it. And then what happens later, I feel ashamed of myself. I feel like a piece of shit because I have no backbone, because I have no, I don't stick up for myself. I don't impose my values. I don't say no.
Mhm.
And that is an epidemic among men. What's wrong? You can't pull it off? Whoa. If someone says that to me, I move heaven and earth to make something happen just to prove that I can.
Mm. Can you give an example of a time when that's happened? When you've bent like a value and gone, I can maybe I've done that too, by the way, right? Like my value, it's strong, but like in this example, it's not gonna. I don't have that value.
I mean, I can think of 100. I worked for a martial arts studio, right? I showed up. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to start training more and do more cardio. And I showed up at this new martial arts studio. I quickly fit in. I liked the instructors. I was training really hard. I loved the training. I feel like I was making really good progress. Before you know it, now they're like, hey, can you teach the beginners? Now can you teach this? Before you know it, I'm running the whole fucking studio. And I'm like the EA to the directors of this martial arts studio for $17 an hour. Right? I'm balancing the books, I'm reading the checks, I'm doing the collateral material, I'm going out and performing, right? I'm doing like exhibitions during my work hours, but during those work hours, I'm clocking out, right? So I'm paying to go do an exhibition for you during my fucking work hours. And there were so many red flags and so many red flags. And each time I was like, well, it's the teacher. Well, I mean, it's good experience. Well, it's this. Well, she's expecting me. They're expecting me to do this. Right. And I just completely lowered and lowered and lowered my standards until I was running this whole fucking organization. Right. And it became my entire life. Right.
Mm.
It also became why now at 50, I can't fucking move in the morning because everything, I have all these injuries in my body from going and doing a performance that I wasn't ready for. Doing, 100 feet of back handsprings when I wasn't warmed up and just pushing through to show that I could. Right. That's one big example that went on for years and years.
So what values were you sacrificing, and then what did the resentment or frustration with self following that look like?
I mean, the values that I sacrificed were the value of my time. For one, how much, because it became my full-time job, right? This was probably, the height of this was during 2008, 2009. So the market was collapsing, right? I was finishing paramedic school for the second time. And I needed to work. But it needed to be flexible work, right? And at first they paid me in cash. I'm like, perfect. I can still get EDD and still get cash and still work at a bar. And so my personal worth was the one that was the most on the table, right? And that was my personal financial worth and all of the things I had to do to deliver, but also my physical worth. I don't know if you can see my nose, but I wasn't born with this nose, right? This nose has been over here. It's been over here. It's been right. I have had more bones broken during competitions. And when I went to Brazil, Joaquin is here in the studio.
Oh, let's go. Joaquin. Bring him in, man. Bring him in. Unless you want, you can finish your thought. Joaquin.
Welcome to the
Thank
Forge.
you.
Hey, we only have about 4 million viewers right now, so no pressure.
No pressure at all.
I'm good.
Joaquin, my name is Danny. It's nice to meet you and welcome.
Thank you.
I can introduce and give Joaquin his big introduction. Joaquin is a good friend of mine. He's a film director, a brilliant director. That's how I met him. He's the first director that gave me a chance as a new actor. So, yeah, real good dude, great director. And we've since worked on multiple projects together. So, Joaquin, thank you so much for being here, man.
Hey, all good, man. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Please do not
Absolutely.
judge my production ability because I just
All good. All good.
all the little buttons for things that run and who goes where, like welcome.
Yeah,
I was
man.
just answering a question that I asked CT and that he flipped back on me. And the question was, what standards have I quietly lowered to keep from feeling disappointed? And I was talking about one experience where I worked. I went to train in martial arts and ended up working in the studio, running the studio, and I was sacrificing my value, my financial value, right? My worth, my dollar per hour worth, my physical value, my body injured all the time. It's very intense martial art. And I was older than almost all, than all of the students there. I was one of the oldest. And I just kept sacrificing it to not disappoint anyone, right? Or someone would be like, sometimes old guys can't pull out this. I'm like, hey, hold on. I mean, this is like, 20 years ago. So I was by no means old, but when you're 30, 28 and 30 lining up against 18 and 19-year-olds. So that was one way. Do you feel ready to jump into a question, Joaquin?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep,
Respect for coming in. You just coming in like I didn't give him any
Coming in hot.
context.
No,
I just gave him the link. I just dropped the link, and he was like,
Yo,
"I'm in there, man." So
is this not a film production meeting that we're doing? Am I in the wrong channel? Shit.
yeah, right. He was like, "Hey, man, we're doing a film. You want to join?"
Joaquin, what standards have you quietly lowered to keep from feeling disappointed?
Standards. That's an interesting question. So I'll tell you this. It always comes back to me. Always comes back to myself. What I've learned is people can't give more than they're willing to give. So it's basically the standards come back to me, my expectations. So if I usually have high expectations where I assume that someone's going to treat me the same way I'm treating them, it's an unrealistic approach, So I don't know if I'm answering if I'm deviating here, but I've just kind of lowered expectations, and it has to do with myself most of the time, and just let it be,
Do
Thank you. Go ahead, TD.
I agree, Joaquin. It's when Danny posed the question to me, I took a minute to think about it and probably still gave it not great answer. It's a difficult question to answer, but I guess to push a little further, can you give an example of when you lower the standard for yourself or for others just to keep from, feeling disappointed?
Yeah, so it's like I do it all the time, and it doesn't mean that people are wrong. It's just that we all have different. We're all in a different place. One of the examples is leaving corporate America or going back and forth to corporate America and enrolling in film school about a year and a half ago. So I'm twice the age of a lot of these young adults, and when we were in class or we were on set, quote unquote, with professors who are my age and even younger, the expectation was that they needed to behave accordingly. Then why are they playing? Why are they taking this seriously? And so lowering the expectations, lowering the standards, I realized it wasn't about me. It wasn't about them. It was about me. So one of the ways, instead of getting upset, was, well, why can't I lead by example without being preachy or acting like their parent, right? So I do a lot of redirecting without being right on the nose of on things. So that's just kind of one example there. Another example, and CT knows a little about this, but really going through a really hard time with my mother right now. She's we put her in a facility right now. She's in a psych ward for elderly and getting reassessed, and to bring her to get her in a place where she can go back to the memory care facility that we placed her 2 weeks ago. Now, my sister is a retired senior arson investigator for the city of Houston. She's got 2 degrees. She went to Notre Dame, full ride scholarship. We clearly are not on the same, place in regards to things that we've done in our personal life accomplishments and stuff like that. But I always have placed her at a higher level because I'm the youngest one. I always expected her to always know everything because she comes across like a know-it-all. It's just who she is, right? She can be in charge of 4 million people, City of Houston, do disaster management. But the one person that can get to her is my mother. And she's 79 years old. And so I had to let go of that expectation and realize that she is a human being, that she is fragile. And this has been brutal, like emotionally brutal. I've never seen her my entire life crumble. I'm 4 years younger than she is. And we've kind of like switched places. And she's in Costa Rica right now. I told her to take a breather. And before she left, she said something that she's never said to me before is, we need to be in this together. Like when I'm down, you need to lift me up and vice versa. You're in a different place right now, she said, than I thought I would be. It was a very humbling situation, very humbling moment for me. At the same time, it was very empowering. And I feel like for the first time, I am being there for my bigger sister. So that's another example of like lowering. I don't know if I answered your question. That's more like lowering expectations versus changing the standard. But again, it all points back to me no matter what. It's how I choose to approach a situation, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that, man. Danny, did you have a question before? I think I had cut you off.
No, this is fluid. Conversation is fluid. Things come and go. If I was going to say something, I forgot what it was. Focusing intently on Joaquin, but Joaquin, thank you for that.
Yeah.
My deep respect to you for your level of presence and how you're interacting in a very challenging situation.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, the question is sort of a trick question because it's meant to draw our attention to patterns of behavior. But then the real question when we answer the first question is, and why did I quietly lower that standard to keep from feeling disappointed? So here's an example. This is just off the top of my head. This is hypothetical, but you're in a film production and a rich donor comes to you and says, I'm funding this film, this project, that's really great. And you're like, wonderful, thank you so much. I'm going to keep you posted on the progress. You're invited to all the, I don't know about film production, but you're invited to participate. And 6 months into production comes and says, my granddaughter would like this particular role. And inside you're like, no, not at all. completely untalented granddaughter shouldn't, but if this is your internal voice and outside you're like, oh, really? What? Tell me more about that. And they're like, yeah, it's conditional on the funding. So I need you to put my granddaughter in this role. It's going to be the lead role. I know the premiere's in 8 weeks, but good luck with that. You say, okay. And work with the granddaughter.
Yeah, so that would be a tough one, because if she's in a minor role, two ways to approach it. If it was like a very small role, yeah, let's film with her. Yeah, and we'll cut her on the editing floor, and at the very end, we're not going to include her, right? But if she wants to lead, so basically this is a vehicle for his granddaughter, I would do two things. You can't make magic happen, right? So I'd have a realistic conversation with a specific donor and say, listen, maybe this isn't the right project for her, but I'm willing to negotiate. Let's say if money is being thrown at me and it's a lot of money, and the granddaughter is the lead, I would try to find an appropriate project that I could do with her that he's willing to commit and be like, yeah, I think this would be a better project for her. And then really work with her. Like, I'm willing to meet you more than halfway. But if there isn't any gray area and it's basically, oh no, it's this project here, she wants to be a lead and the character does not match, and she does not have the potential or the background, then I unfortunately would have to turn it down. It would hurt, but I can't. It's like one of my old bosses to tell me, you can't polish a turd, you can't make you can't make it happen. And I love working with new actors, but you got to start someplace, So unfortunately, yeah, that would be these are hypotheticals I'm throwing at you,
They are and they're not. So part of the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of my patterns has been avoiding confrontation and then having to do gymnastics for 6 and 9 months, a year or more after that to cover the collateral. So a quick background, my first career was as a concert violinist, and my second career was in EMS. Okay. Right? Concert violinist is about ego. It's about, there's a little bit of narcissism. There's some recognition. There's a lot of attention focused on people. There's a lot of worth involved, but no one dies, right? EMS is the opposite. There's a lot of attention, there's a lot of narcissism, there's a lot of focus on an individual. And also, if you fuck up your performance, people die. And so in the past, when I had been evaluating people that were like completely like, this person should not be touching patients at all, and someone comes and says, you better pass the internship. Or, right? So this example of the donor in the production is person in a place of power or perceived power, a person in the intermediary who's making a choice based on certain values, and me being like, you got it, I'm going to make it work some way or the other, right? And then taking the collateral of making sure this person doesn't kill anyone for 6 weeks until I can get them out the door, pass them the internship. Why did I allow that? That for me is where I work on myself and being like, what was it about me that was incapable or unwilling of saying no in that moment, and being like, if you want to demote me, you can demote me, but I am not going to have the death of some innocent person in public on my hands when this person's just is not meeting the qualifications, right? And so that is a way that I have quietly lowered my standards to keep from feeling uncomfortable. Right? In the fire service, a lot of time it's like, well, are you one of us or are you not? Are you a team player or are you not? Are you gonna stand up for your brothers? Well, are you not? So I have been flexible. Before you just came on camera, I was talking to CT about the red line of my values in the past has been very fluid and very movable. Now, much less so. But
can I interject? Can I interject here? So you're talking about lowering standards. The examples I gave were about lowering expectations. I just realized that. But listening to you, where did you feel like you had to lower standards? Lower standards to let somebody get by, or lowering standards? Because what I'm listening to you saying is if you're now saying no, you've actually elevated your standards. You have a higher standard. Maybe you've lowered the expectation, but you've elevated your standards where you're not going to allow this anymore. So in this case right here, would that be changing your standards for like the better with a
Yeah,
higher level of standards? Like you're not going to allow this individual to get by because if they're not unwilling, because they're a liability, and not
yeah.
only financial liability, but also to like a community of people that, you know. So I think I just realized I don't know if I have lowered standards. I think I've lowered expectations, but I think I've continued to push my standards up. Like it's like dating, you know, like going from like a conservative relationship to dating a liberal woman, a very liberal, and then you realize those aren't your standards. Those are not the things. Like in my personal example, I wasn't raised. Why have I been lowering my standards and expectations? Actually, lowering my standards and raising my expectations with a woman who is unable to meet me, not even halfway. So I feel like maybe I've now lowered expectations and understand. Like anytime I see a blue hair, sorry, I'm not trying to be derogatory. A blue hair, pink haired, I'm like, okay, immediately I know what your agenda is. I know what your agenda is, and this is my standard. This is my and there's no negotiation at this point. I used to negotiate and lower my standards for 30 years. I went, I nego, I lowered my standards just so I could, so I wouldn't be rejected. That's what
Say
it came
more
down
about that. That's where we're going with this. Say
to.
more.
Rejection. It's basically, it comes down to rejection. So not being rejected by others, you know, and that is like open a can of worms. This may go to infancy, this may go to childhood, it may go to your parents, it may go to that one relationship, it may be that one instructor or somebody in your life, but you have this insatiable need where you have to be accepted and liked by everyone. If not, people's worthiness of you, that's what defines yourself.
Of me?
As I've gotten, yeah, like for some people, when they like what in my specific case, when I would lower my standards, like my last relationship with my ex-girlfriend, like I've lowered my standards for her to meet her where she needs to be, where I could appreciate her and accept her for all her ideas and ideology. I realized, why did I do this? Was I so desperate for a relationship that I really want her so much? What does that say about me? Why am I unwilling to work for the harder? Why don't I try to meet a woman that has the same conservative values as I have? Why don't I work for that? Because it takes work. So I was lowering my standard because it was easier and as a reflection of me. Now at this stage, man, I wish I would have known this 30 years ago, right? Because it would have saved me from 30 years of shit-tastic relationships, right? That I was clearly a part of. Like it was also responsible as well. I started to carry myself differently. I don't like, I just like immediately look at situations or people, women I meet. I mean, like, yeah, God bless you. Good luck to you. It's not going to work out, you know? And I walk away with feeling good, you know? So now I know what I'm looking for. So for me, it came back, it goes back to reflection of myself. Weak-minded, not strong enough values. It always comes back to self in my situation.
Mhm.
Why did I allow this? Because I wasn't strong enough mentally. I wasn't strong enough with my convictions. I wasn't strong enough with my values. Once
The
you
model that you're using, excuse me, I don't want to let this pass by. The model that you're using for me uses a lot of very subjective language that I would call judgmental.
Me, okay.
Not strong enough. You know, what does that make sense? So I wonder if there's a way that those experiences could have been or may have been teachers as opposed to failures.
So I used to look at failure. I don't know about you guys. I used to look at failure as a reflection of, I think it wasn't until I became a parent, I used to look at failure as like a bad thing. Now I look at failure as an opportunity to grow, you know? And here's the thing, the word failure, I rarely use the word failure because I don't feel like that. No matter how difficult the circumstance is, it goes back to reflection myself, and it is a judgment against myself that I don't feel like I fail. There's a saying, I don't know who said this, but I read this many years ago and it stayed with me. experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. I have a lot of experience, obviously, you know, because I haven't gotten the things that I've wanted because I've not been successful or have fallen short of it, right? But yeah, but going back to that language, so I use the words not successful and some other words. Do you consider that to be um, like demeaning to oneself by using those words, or not strong enough, or
Speaking generally and speaking in relation to myself, those are the two filters that I'm sort of hearing this through.
okay,
But there are ways that we are objective, and there are ways as men that we see things as success, failure, win, lose. I made it, I didn't made it, I'm good enough, I'm not. I'm in a relationship, I'm rejected. She chose me, she didn't. And there's a way that many of us, this is not a projection of you specifically, Joaquin, but there's a way that many of us dichotomize and have a binary of this or that.
right?
And so this is, this is just me asking the question, is there a way that things can work out the way they work out and serve to be teachers? This is as much a question for me because I have been very black or white in my past. I'm in the process of a divorce that I never expected, and I'm very comfortable with it and have a very different approach than I could ever have imagined having to a divorce. Because of that reason, I'm like, okay, I made some choices. I would not repeat those choices tomorrow that I made a few years ago. And here are some things that I think I'm learning about myself in the process. So as opposed to being like, I lost this and being bitter all the time, I'm like, this is definitely not my desired outcome. And also, this is probably what I needed. Right? This is part two of what are the ways in which I've lowered my standards to keep from being disappointed.
Yeah.
Which were accepting behaviors in a relationship that I would never have accepted in any other context. Right? Certainly not at work. Certainly not in the street. Right? And so for me, I believe that experiences have as much value as we allow them to have, good or bad, the desired outcome or not. And so that's why that's what it caught my attention, that it sounded like there was a little judgment. And I just
So
table it.
yeah, so the words like not strong enough, I can go back and remove that word and say I wasn't adhering to my values. I was compromising my values. Instead of saying I wasn't strong enough, I was weak. The real issue was compromising my values that I really subscribe to, that bring me happiness, and I was raised with, and I like. That's what I was doing. I was compromising. I was lowering my standards because I was so desperate to be in a relationship, and I knew that it would work. I knew that it would work out no matter what, as long as I made her happy and I agreed to everything she said. Doesn't sound like she had the issue. Sounds like I had the issue.
It sounds sustainable. Nah.
Yeah, doesn't sound sustainable. Yeah, it doesn't sound sustainable until it wasn't.
No.
And then I started to raise my standards. She started to notice it, and we started to have a lot of dialogue because of that. And it just wasn't where we needed to be together anymore. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the question. So this is the point. Before you came on camera, also, we were talking about why are we here? How did the two of us hook up in the first place, and why are we here? What is the point of this? And the point of this is to create a space, and we're creating that space where this type of conversation is has no risk, right? There's no risk of rejection. There's no risk of judgment. There's no risk of unsolicited advice. And I really appreciate your transparency and your self-examination. Right? And that was a really good reframe.
Yeah.
Excellent reframe. I ask myself that all the time. If I met this same guy a year from now or today, how would I respond differently and why? because my standards have not changed. I, like you, have a core set of values that I actually really like. I don't feel like they're imposed on me. They were shown to me, and I like them. I like them just how they are. And I believe in them fully, which is why I'm comfortable with them. And yet, I was willing to shelf those in order to not say no. Right? In order to not say, I actually don't agree with this.
Right.
And so the question for myself is, if that same situation arose tomorrow, how would I respond?
Have you thought about how you would respond in a situation?
Extensively. To me, it's a no-brainer. To me, it's like, you invite me to your house and I don't eat peppers. I know people I live in Mexico with there's peppers everywhere. In Texas, I know people throw Cholula hot sauce, tapatio over everything. I don't eat it. And so if you invited me to your house and you're like, we have some steak, we have some this, we have some this, we have some Cholula, no, thank you. Just that simple. No, thank you. I don't eat that. Thank you. I'll have this and this and that. And so for me, it's just a question of understanding that I no longer have to change my values to accommodate someone else.
Mhm.
And that imposing a value doesn't have to mean a confrontation. It's just really simple. I just don't eat hot sauce.
Do you also feel that way, that you also don't have to explain yourself, that simply saying no or no thank you is a full sentence and that suffice, without having to go into detail for the why, unless do you feel like that's more than enough? Just saying, hey, no thanks, appreciate it.
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I also feel that I can have dialogue, is a word you used. I can have dialogue without it being an explanation or justification. Where this is what, for me, I just turned 50 recently. This for me is about like stepping into myself and being comfortable in my values. As I've said, my values have been the same for a long time. Have they modified here and there? Of course. But they're firm. And so they don't require justification, just require me to be authentic from the beginning. And then there is no need for justifying later. So yeah, the answer to your question is yes. I feel comfortable with that now. Took some work, took some exploration, but yeah, I sure do.
Definitely, man.
That's one of the reasons why I like working with actors a lot. Sorry to bring it back to film, but questions like this, the self-exploration, this inner work that I feel like actors have to do with their characters. It's fun to build that, to get to know that character, and being able to shape a character, go along for the ride, and to me, you have to have that self-reflection, that awareness, right? I think in the process, sometimes along the way, when I end up doing some healing myself. Like, it's not the reason why I do this or why I like doing this. It just kind of happens sometimes. Like, things present themselves, and I learn a lot about myself.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you something, both of you something that I've recently discovered about myself is I always don't have to comment on everything. I always felt that I did. I always felt that I had to let everybody know what my opinion was, or, in a conversation that I may not be comfortable with, in a situation that I've been invited to, let's say like a social event for filmmakers and stuff. I'm learning that I can just simply say, just nod and go, hey, interesting. And just say, well, listen, I'm going to step away right now. I'm going to go say hi to somebody else, without getting upset or not embracing or getting upset because their values aren't similar to mine. So that's something that I've learned recently along the way, that it's okay to not be okay, and I'm going to be okay still and not get upset. Let me tell you, because there's a lot of times that I want to interject and I realize my opinion really isn't that important. What's my goal here? Am I going to change? Is that what I really want? So they can see things that I want? That's what seems like what they want from me. It's not the place or the time. So cheers. I'm going to go to grab another beer or something, and say without getting upset, and I can tell you that I've been a lot happier in these social situations. And I just say hi and bye to people, and I'm totally cool, and I'm no longer getting upset. Which goes back to a word you said a few minutes ago, judgment. Because I'm no longer wanting to judge them because their values aren't the same as mine. I just let it go. Maybe it's an age thing. I don't know. Maybe it's awareness. That's where I'm at in my life right now. Just be more chill. What about you?
I
CT?
love that question. I love that question. I can say the answer for me is yes, but I've been this way for a long time.
Okay.
I've been this way for a long time, partly because of work, because my job was to really be nosy. So tell me, when you smoke crack, how much crack do you smoke? And do you smoke it all at once? Do you spread it out a little bit more? Like, this
Gotcha.
person didn't need to know that crack is bad. You can't do that. I just need to know the information. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. What type of crack do you like? The particular kind. Yeah, that's like you can do a bag at a time, 2 bags. Like, talk to me.
That's fun.
But also because I lived in San Francisco for 20 years, which politically is very special and very specific in its politics, most of which I don't share. And so for me, I've always, not always, but I've 95% of the time taken the Joe Rogan approach, right?
Okay.
Like, I don't need to be in a toxic echo chamber, knockdown, drag out with anyone. As I said, I know what my values are. Could some of them change? Yeah, I guess. But if they change, it's because I'm going to listen to other perspectives. And so when I'm at a party or when I'm at an event and someone says something that I'm like, this fucking dude is nuts. I'm like, that's interesting. Can you help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion? And so I almost am like a journalist. I'm like, this person doesn't need to know my opinion. They want to tell me theirs, and it's actually somewhat interesting, even though I think you're fucking nuts. It's like a character. Like, what makes this person tick? And so I give people the audience and let them say their piece without saying, yeah, but yeah, don't you think this? Or, well, what about that? And questioning people, like, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing your perspective. And almost always, they don't ask me my opinion.
Right. People love to hear themselves speak.
Yeah.
And when you encourage that, they won't stop. I learned this from my sister. The same approach that you have, my sister does with people. Like, I know her, people often mistaken her as being very conservative, but she's not, because she doesn't press her ideas on other people. She'll speak to somebody who's conservative and will say, well, why do you think that way? Okay. Or what about this? She almost has a journalistic approach. And I really am fond of that perspective. And I am reminded of myself when I don't do it, because if I were to approach that, here's the beauty about your approach. My sister's approach is there's an opportunity to learn. I may not agree with it or embrace what you're saying, but at least it gives me some reason why you feel that way, right? And another reason why that approach, I'm wanting to go that route, is less judgment, and not immediately dismiss that individual, right? Like I said a few minutes ago, oh, if I see purple hair or pink hair, immediately, nah, get out of the way. For all I know, she's an actress and they dyed her hair that way. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't discard somebody. So I need to allow that opportunity for dialogue, right? Doesn't mean I have to embrace it, but I just can't be so dismissive about it. So anyway, so I wish I could apply that more. My sister does that, just like what you do.
It takes work. I mean, it honestly takes work, because listen, there is a biological reason that we align with our values, right? CT and I have talked a lot about this. The work that I do with clients has a lot to do with biology, because our physiology and our biology has been unchanged for 180,000 years. We've had the same nervous system, we've had the same physiological needs, but our society and our communication channels have changed prolifically in the last 20 and 50 years, right? More than 50 years ago, a lot of homes didn't even have electricity, right? Certainly no one had a phone or a cell phone or a tablet or any of that. So why does it line up? Is because we need to know that biologically, we need to know that we're safe with someone similar to us that doesn't pose a threat, right? And because I'm secure in my values, I don't need to tell anyone what they are, because I know what they are. And so I can listen to someone and internally being like, I think you're completely, don't talk to me about a new pronoun or anything else. I'm not interested. But I can still be very attentive and be like, and tell me what it means for you if I call you Zimzir. Can you help me explain the importance of that for you? When inside, I'm like, never going to happen in a million years, but I would love to hear your perspective on it, right? Because, the toxic echo chamber thing, all that does is create adversaries, right? That creates an us and them, and I have to protect myself against all of this. I'm like, I have people at every dank little corner of the political spectrum, and I love them all. And when I truly listen to their message, I'm like, they're all actually saying the same thing, just with very different language. And so it doesn't do anything to me. Sometimes there's someone who's so out there that I'm like, you're just a hateful, you're just a hateful person. You know what I mean? You're damaged. You need some psychotherapy. You need some, I don't know, a priest, maybe. So you need some deep spiritual work. You need, you need a santera, a rabbi, and a priest all at the same time.
Yeah, right.
But those are the minority, those are the minority. And for me, it's just more interesting to hear, like, help me understand how you arrived at that conclusion. I'm interested. And then the temperature comes down and there's nothing to defend. It's just an explanation. Would I want to date that? No, not at all. But it's 13:13, by the way. I don't know if anyone's into numbers, but it is
damn near 13 seconds.
13:13 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And so we're a little bit past the hour. I wanted to just conclude, first of all, by thanking you, Joaquin, for being so willing to come here and
Absolutely. Yeah.
table some stuff in front of a complete stranger.
Yes,
And
thank you.
CT, I learn something from you every time we interact, and I've come to really love you. You're an important part of my life. Even though we don't know each other in person, you're important to me. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the viewers. This is Danny McAtee, CT Duel, and our guest, Joaquin, the producer. And this is the Forge Men's Group. Any and all topics are on the table. We respect, we listen, we don't judge, we just witness and understand each other. So we will be live again this week, on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Here is our contact information here. Reach out anytime at Danny McAtee, or excuse me, at McAtee Danny, or at CT Duel. Thank you,
Well
gentlemen.
stated, my brother. Thank you again, Joaquin, for joining, man. It takes a lot of heart and balls to come on here, man. So appreciate you.
Cojones.
All good.
Cojones.
I like a dialogue. I like talking about things. It's good.
Come back anytime. It's fascinating to
Seriously.
hear from you today.
Will do. Appreciate it.
All right, my man. Take care of yourselves. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys.